It started when I was on my way, waking back up in the morning after I went to sleep at night. I found myself in this interesting space. It's like, I know this space. It was this, it's like looking down on your life. It's the place you go for review. And I'm thinking, did I die? Right? Did I die and don't know it yet? Right? Was my first question. Because I had been there before. I remember coming through those fields to do the walk-in, but also in Katie's body, the part of me that had walked out, she had that particular experience, and they are the places, the particular planes that she had to go through to get out. And that's when she had a near-death experience, and the body still has a cellular memory imprint of that very visually, like what it looked like, what it felt like. That was the place that after you go through the weird little tunnel effect, that it goes, and it's light, but not all like bright light blinding you, but you feel like, oh, that was all just a horrible nightmare down there. And it feels really good. And she didn't want to come back when she had the near-death experience. We had to convince her to come back and just to wait to grow the body enough where we could finish the walk-in, walk-out thing. But it was that place. So I really I remember finding myself, 3 mornings in a row, I found myself on the way back here, but to wakefulness, but very awake there. And I just felt this most wonderful peace about the whole thing. And I could see stuff really, really clearly as far as what the work was about and what needed to be done and all of those kind of things. And it was like, oh, good, I want to stay here. Can I not go back too? I was like, no. So the 3rd morning that happened, that one, I woke up and I felt a shift in my body, like the wave of peace from there came into my body. And kind of interesting. And I found myself the whole day walking around in that state of consciousness while being fully aware here too. That was really neat. Yeah. Yeah, and that was right around when I found my father too. My father died in '97, and I've not been able to find him anywhere out there, because I can usually track people and find out where they are and see if they need help or anything, or at least say goodbye, you know. And I couldn't find Dad, and they just told me, don't worry, he's in process right now. He'll be all right. It's like, great, where is he in process? Can't even say hi. It's like, no, it would not be good for him right now. Before I had those openings, where it was like, it felt like the opening came up here, like it was a very distinct feeling right up above the head. And right before that, I had this really strange dream experience first, where I found him, and he thought he didn't realize he had died. And there's a lot of people that get in this position, and they go into what are called review planes, and they don't realize their physical body had died. And it's like the matter state, because they're, depending on where your consciousness is stationed, depends on what levels you feel or see as physical outside of yourself. And I guess it had been so traumatic for him. He had died of cancer, and quite quickly. And he had transitioned quickly and got into the review space. He remembered that he was in the hospital because he had a really bad car accident because he drank too much, and made him stop drinking because he was in the hospital a long time, but he got better. And then his employer liked him enough to not fire him, so he stayed working at IBM because he used to work at IBM when he was alive. And he just carried on. But he wasn't alone. He was in this place with a whole bunch of other people who are doing the same thing, which is really interesting, right? Right, and it was like a place different than that place. It was a place that still had all this tension, and he was still worried about not having enough money. He thought his daughter was off in Arizona going to art college. That's how he remembered me. Okay, right? And the way I had found him is the beloveds had taken me into this situation with the Katie part of myself. She's been trained as a WayShower on the other places, so now we kind of get together, and we, it makes it so we can do multiple planes simultaneously, or we can help on multiple levels. And they merged, she and I, so we could go into his hologram. And he was so glad to see that we'd come back to visit from art school. And we were trying to help him get out of here, because he was still trying to figure out, he was afraid he was going to lose his house because he wasn't making enough money because the medical bills were too high, and it was still all very real for him physically. So they were starting to train me in how to intervene on that level. And there are sets of ideas, right, sets of beliefs that a person, if they transition over to the other planes, if they hold those beliefs, they will still materialize. And there are certain snares that make that happen in ways it shouldn't, that have to do with the net fields here. But there are interventions that are being done. And they had me do an intervention with him. And you have to do them carefully. You have to work within the paradigm of belief that the people have. If they're Christian, you have to use that symbology. If they're Jewish, you have to use that symbology. If they're Muslim, you have to use that symbology. Whatever. But whatever, they would understand the intent that you're trying to do. You actually have to. I remember we played angel once, like just choir angel in our early training. Just go back there and sing with the angels with the wings, right? It was in a Christian rescue drama. My dad was Christian. He was Catholic, but he was not. He didn't go to church or anything. And so we had to intervene, like, in a pair of jeans. And, hi, Dad, just came in to visit you from Arizona. How's art school? Pretty good. Oh, yeah. So, by the way, we're going to retire, my husband and I. You got married? Why didn't you invite me? I was like, and it's like, help, what do you say to that one? Like, oh, memory glitch here, there's going to be a problem. Because you don't want to terrorize them. You can't go and say, hi, you're dead. Would you like to go? It'll scare people, right? And they'll freak out and it'll get even worse for them, right? So it's like, I didn't know where you had moved to, which was the truth, right? You have to tell them the truth. You can't lie in those interventions, right? And I didn't know where he had moved to for 3 years. Or no, it was almost 11 years now, actually. And he said, oh, it must have been when I was in the hospital. And like his mind, his memory was a bit fuzzy about that because he felt that he'd just been in the hospital like for 3 years or something long, and he was lucky to have lived because of the car accident he had. And that's not how he died. He didn't die in a car accident, bless him. But so we had to work with him with this, and he said, well, why don't you retire with us? We're going to go someplace really nice, and you could come and live with us, and you don't have to worry about it. I can't afford it. I can't afford to go. So, well, that's all right. My husband and I, we have a secret. We have like a little business, and it supports us, so we can take care of you. You don't have to do that. And he's like, well, all right, but I'm going to wait. I have 2 years left to retire, and when I retire. Okay, right. And after that I'm getting from the beloveds, by the way, yes, he does have 2 years, because in 2 years he's going to retire because he's birthing back into a body, right? It's like, so we have to get him ready for that transition because he doesn't believe in reincarnation. He doesn't believe in any of that stuff, but he managed to get through conscious, but still running a hologram. Not everybody gets through where they're conscious right away. They're kind of like asleep for a long time and that kind of thing. But he did get through conscious. And after that experience, and that was before I had the opening experience, of my own personal one, it started to dawn on me, wow, this is really interesting because those planes are just as physical, right? And you just don't go up to tell you. And what if you just went up and said, well, look, you don't have to be afraid of money anymore because it's not real here, right? That actually would be true. But that's the same here. They work the same. It's the thought projection, and it's done on a mass level. There are mass thought bands. And it started on me. Then I wondered. I said, okay, is there any possibility, remembering we had a boating accident in Paxos, right, as and I did, and that was very, very close. And I know I was very, very sick for about 3 to 6 months after that. And I gave workshops, and one of them I think was I had the wrap on because I had been coughing so hard because there just something affected my lungs really bad that I actually tore a muscle from the coughing right before a workshop, and I still had to go in and do the workshop. But I thought we died for a while there. I was like, you know what? Oh my God! Because they're talking about mass review planes, where when a whole group of people goes together, they just transfer their hologram. And they might remember a common, like, little, oh, that was a big flood. But wow, we survived, even though their bodies didn't, right? Then the beloveds got into more interesting things about such mass review bands and about the Amente rescue mission and what had happened about the lost souls of Terra, which started the reason why they started the Earth host down here as far as the Terran fields went. That there were a bunch of those review bands here that had to do with the people from Terra who didn't realize they lost their bodies, and they're still carrying on. And that has something to do with the heavy dramas that are getting beamed down here in the nets, and we're just living it out again. We're living out the Atlantean dramas and the whole bit. So there's a much thinner veil between life and death than it seems like down here. And we're going to be looking into some of that and what that means in relation to these Tiwa structures, what the structures are supposed to be like. We're going to look at the planes of the mental body, which have to do with the planes of the earth body as well.